All right, just clicked on 7:03, so we're going to get started. And thank you all for coming this evening. The meeting is being recorded for those who you may talk to who are unable to attend, and for those who might come in late, we will make a video available after, probably a few days after. It'll be put up on the State Grange YouTube channel for viewing. Um, so it will be edited down, so the pre-meeting stuff will be taken off and anything that follows afterwards. But all right, so this meeting, I hope will be a little bit different from the last meeting. The last meeting, I did a lot of detailed information. We had a little less time available for or question and answer. I do have some highlights that I do have to cover, things that I'm aware of that need attention. So I'm going to go through those, and then we'll open it up to any questions you all might have.
Hey
Uh,
Todd, did you see the message from Noel? He says his audio and his video is not working. It just came up on the screen.
I I can't. It must be his connection.
Yeah, because it just popped up in the
Let me look at
participants
the
screen.
chat. Let me look at the chat here.
Yeah, it's in the chat.
I'll send him a response. All right. So the earlier this week, or the beginning of last week, I sent out a packet to all the secretaries, or at least to the Granges. There's a lot of information there.
Come
I
on.
want to go over some of the items. First and foremost, there were copies of the executive committee reports. I do not expect every one of you to file those again if you've already done them. But for those Granges that haven't filed their executive committee reports, it's highly important that you do. They were due officially on December 31st. So they come due 3 months following the close of the fiscal year. And the Grange, that would be September 30th. Um, we made a change. Those reports are now filed with the state Grange office. Previously they had either gone to the state master or to the general deputy. The problem is when we change administrations, that paperwork hasn't found its way back to the state Grange office. So Granges come to me and say, "Well, I just became secretary, I became treasurer, I became responsible for filing the executive committee reports, or our secretary died, or something, and I can't get a hold of the records from previous years. Can you help me?" And usually the answer is no, because I don't have those records. So we're trying to correct that. We're trying to compile accurate records in the office of all the executive committee reports. Once I receive them, copies are sent to the state president. So they just don't rest with me. The official copies are filed in the central office, and the state master gets copies for his review. Um, so that covers executive committee reports. All right, state directory forms. This has been a real problem for me, especially for the last few years. Um, we got away from filing those right after elections or as soon after June 30th as possible. They come in as late as January 1st. It's a problem because we've already gone through a big chunk of the year already. Just as important as getting the correct information in the directory, it's just as important that I and the state master and everyone else at the state Grange knows who the responsible people are in your Granges and how to contact them. And we'd like to have that information before the new Grange year begins. So even if you don't have any changes, we want those forms back as soon as possible. If you know you don't have changes now, or you won't have any changes, send it back to me with a note that says no changes. and I'm not looking for you. If I don't receive the form, all I know is I did not receive a form, and there's probably information that I don't have for the directory. I've had to cull some of that information from Pomona handbooks, but we don't get those until the end of October. We can't go through them until the beginning of November. So it really slows things down when those aren't returned to me. So I would appreciate it if we could get on top of that. Also in the packet were membership award forms. If you have old forms laying around your house, get rid of them. Use these forms. There's a couple big changes. Um, on the state form, the one that says Connecticut State Grange at the top, it's the pink form. The cost for seals has changed. It went from $2.50 to $5. That's not me. That's the National Grange. The cost for those seals has doubled. I will be ordering them again soon, and we will pay $5 a piece for those stickers. We should charge more than the $5 because we have to pay shipping and we have to ship them to you when you order them. But I'm not going to double the cost and then add more to that this time. Soon after, we'll have to talk about increasing the cost a little bit more to cover those additional expenses. So you get a little bit of a break now, but there's just nothing we can do. On the national form, the cost of shipping changed maybe 2 or 3 years ago. It used to be a flat number that if you ordered a 75-year certificate, you paid whatever it was. It might have been $4 or $5. I don't remember. But it was a fixed number. Now there's a bracket on the form, so if you order up to $20 or $30 or whatever it may be, you pay the price associated with that total. It's important that you use that because they'll bounce that check back to me, or they'll send us a bill for the difference. And then it's a real problem with National when we owe them money. As Jody can tell you, we've gotten bills 2 years later for things that we paid for. We don't need to compound the problem by owing them money in amounts of $5, $10. Loretta does her best, but she she fails in many ways, and it's painful for us on our end. So if we can get those numbers accurate, use the correct forms. Again, the pink forms are just for ordering those items that I would provide for you, and that would be Silver Star certificates. It would be um, the 30-year certificates, 35, 40, 45-year certificates, and then all of the seals that would go on the Golden Sheaf certificates. National would provide you with the Golden Sheaf certificates and any of the certificates beyond, well, at 75 years and beyond. That's what those forms are used for. Don't combine them on one form. They have to be on separate forms because your order and the payment has to go on its own form to National. And it really confuses things when there's state things on the National form. They don't know how to process that. All right, so that covers those forms.
So I have a question.
Sure.
Maybe the secretaries of a Grange or the secretaries collectively could come up with a resolution to have something nicer than a form letter for someone who celebrates 80 years membership. I always thought it was tacky that, we have these impressive certificates to 50 years, and then we have the seals. And then when you've been fortunate enough to give 80 years, 75 and 80 years, well, 75 is a nice certificate, but 80 years to the Grange, you get a form letter that isn't even personally signed by the National Master at times. It's sometimes an ink stamp. I just think National Grange could do a better job with that.
Well, I agree with you, and I hope someone will write that resolution. Um, when I became secretary, I changed the Silver Star certificates. The Silver Stars, the National had changed them um, just before I became secretary. I hate them. I hate the certificates that they use. I thought they were ugly. That's why we have our own. I think they're a little bit more personal for 25-year members. And then we developed our own um, 30, 35, 40, and 45-year certificates, because those were even worse than the Silver Star certificates, the ones that National came up. They were these like Word doc things that you could print out on your own home printer. I didn't think it was worthy of the recognition that we were given. So if someone could write that resolution, I would greatly appreciate it, and I would support it as well. Um, and Jody's right. You get a fairly nice certificate for 75 years, but it's a steep decline after 75 years. It is basically a letter, you said, right? I haven't seen them in a while. All right, so also in the packet were dues receipt order forms. Last year, we changed to a card rather than the receipt booklets. Has everyone liked that change generally?
Yes.
Yeah. The feeling I was getting from Granges was they were being forced to take many more dues receipts than they really needed, because they were in increments of 50 per book. So now we're able to give you close to what you'll need. Unfortunately, I don't get a lot of input until somebody's angry that they got sent them and they don't want them. So to counter that, every Grange has received a form just to check off what you need, tell me the quantity you need, and you'll get exactly what you order. If I don't hear from a Grange, you're going to get what I want to give you. And that may or may not suit your needs. So please get those back to me. If you don't want them, write "don't want" on the form and send it back to me. Don't assume I know that because you didn't send the form back. All I know is you didn't send the form back, just like the other items that I mentioned I'd like returned to me.
But it does say there's a place to check if you don't want it.
I know, but not everybody reads. Reading is optional until it's not. All right, so I need to talk briefly about tax obligations. Granges are becoming more aware of money available to them through grant programs and organizations. Keep in mind, if you're working on a grant, your first obligation is to contact the State Grange Foundation to let us know what you're contemplating. Let us know if you have the paperwork available. Let us see the paperwork to review it and see if it's in line with the Connecticut State Grange Foundation. When you apply for a grant that is attached to 501c3 in some manner, you're entangling the State Grange Foundation. So we have a legal obligation. We have an IRS obligation to uphold the regulations that we have to follow. You can't go rogue. And we've had some Granges that have applied for grants without fully reading the documents, and they were quite surprised by some of the terms that they weren't aware of. We want to avoid those problems in advance. So if there is a problem, if we do get into jeopardy with the IRS, that puts a red flag on the organization. That means that we're under higher scrutiny by the IRS for everything that we do. We're not doing anything wrong. I don't believe we've ever done anything to put ourselves in jeopardy. However, if there's an idea that we've done something wrong, they're going to scrutinize us even more, and it's just going to be a bigger problem for us than it really needs to be. So we want to avoid that at all costs. Just like you don't want to attract the IRS with your 1040 filings. We don't want to do that with our organization either. So that brings us to 990s. Granges are required to certify their annual income, normally that it is below $50,000, that it is normally below $50,000. That is the key word. The IRS uses a 3-year average to determine if you continue to qualify for filing a 990E postcard. What does that mean? That means we take the amounts for this year and the 2 previous years, average them together, excuse me. And if the average of those 3 numbers is less than $50,000, you're good to go. You qualify to file for an e-postcard. If on any given year that average ticks above $50,000, I'm obligated to file that you are not below that cap. And that will trigger a long form filing of your taxes. Um, I try to get this message out to all Granges as much as I can whenever I can, because I don't want someone to say, well, I didn't know that. Because you're taking on a greater responsibility for yourself. Just like it's great to get that money, there's a responsibility that comes with taking that money. The state Grange will not file long form taxes for you. That becomes your obligation as a Grange. And it's not optional either. You do have to file that. I've had some discussions with different members of the order who don't take Grange tax filings seriously. And it's just as serious for Granges as it is for an individual or any other corporation or business in this country. You have to take it seriously. You have to do what is required. You will forfeit your nonprofit status. You will forfeit your EIN number. It will wreak havoc on your Grange. Not only that, it will wreak havoc on the state Grange. Your EIN number falls under a group exemption provided by the state Grange. So anything that happens within that exemption affects the entire organization. You might have a unique number, but that unique number belongs to the state Grange as well as your own Grange. So we're all in one tangled group. So the state Grange took over the filings a number of years ago because there were problems with filings. Some were not being made. One Grange lost its EIN number because of it. I took on a project for National Grange, which is still in progress, reviewing every EIN number for every Grange in the country. Connecticut, I'm proud to say, is about the only state that has a clean slate across the board. Every EIN number is accounted for. Every 990 filing is accurate and filed for each year. So for that, we can be proud.
So can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Because I'll forget by the time you're done. I apologize. How soon after the close of 9/30 do you require the postcards, your financial form to be submitted?
Well, I asked for those. I put out the letter around January 1st or at the end of December.
So,
And I asked,
so I apologize, but I think that letter needs to go September 1st. Because if the state Grange finds that a Grange has to file a long form, they only have 3 months from the close of their fiscal year to file their tax return. So January 1st.
valid point.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, unfortunately, these are things that I found out through another organization, and if we botch that up, then and they get their naughty letter from the IRS, then it just complicates everything.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't really thought about that because the IRS doesn't make the filing portal available until the end of January, early February. It's usually, you can't even look up filings. They shut the whole thing down and you can't do anything with the 990 filing system until they're good and ready to give it back to you.
And
so,
that's
but we can predict what's going to happen.
Well, but by sending it September 1st, when they close their books as of September 30th, they can have all of that information to you, hopefully by October 31st. And that still gives them time to either ask for an extension or find an accountant or a tax preparer to do their tax return, because I would not think we have too many people in our ranks that would comfortably say, oh yeah, I can fill that out. So
I want to be signing my name to it, that's for sure. We don't have any Granges this year in that category, but I can tell you we have probably three Granges that it wouldn't take too much to put them over that amount. So you have, if you put together 2 or 3 years of successful fundraising with grants and other sources, you can easily put yourself over that amount. So, um, and let me be clear, if you took in $55,000 in 2024, that doesn't automatically put you over the limit. Again, it's a 3-year average. If you had $10,000 and $15,000 for the 2 previous years, when you average that together, it doesn't come up to the 50 grand. So uh, don't be too worried about it, but you do have to be cognizant of what can happen. Okay, so that's quarterly reports. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you to every one of you who filed a quarterly report. I believe this is the first quarter since I became secretary that I've had all of the reports in at the time that I make the national report. Um, Applause. Yes, absolutely applause. Um, Usually I have to take previous quarters numbers, and those aren't always accurate. We end up paying a little bit more than we probably should in some cases. Usually, in most cases, we end up paying more when I transfer numbers from a previous quarter to make up for no data. But it was great to have that this quarter. I'm going to put up, actually, was there one other item here that I missed? Dues receipt, I covered that. Okay, so is everyone familiar with dues receipts? Not dues receipts. Uh, Orders on treasurer and treasurer's receipts. Does everybody know what those are?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anyone want me to review them?
No.
Okay, I'm pretty sure everyone in this room knows them. The people that I hope need to know about them are not here, so I won't bore you with that information. Maybe I'll bore people in the Granger with it. I don't know. But I'm going to put up the quarterly report. And I need to go through a few items on the report.
Todd, can you change my address on the Pomona report for the next quarter so it comes to my address? Because
I just did new forms, Judy.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Now it should come up. All right. Excuse me. Can everyone see the form?
Yes. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So what I did was fill out a form as completely as I could. I'm finding that many of you are doing it correctly. So this isn't pointed at everybody. But in quite a few cases, the left-hand side is not being filled in, especially B through F, and numbers are being plugged in on the right-hand side. Unfortunately, if there's a problem, I can't see your work. So I don't know how you got those numbers. So I need to see you work out the totals on the left-hand side and then put those totals on the right-hand side. Also, if members who have either died or have been suspended or resigned or took a demit are being reported in A, please report them down below in the grid at the bottom and tell me their names and when the date of when that transaction occurred. It's highly important, especially with new members. When you send in, excuse me.
Bless you.
I had a cold for 2 weeks, and every once in a while, my throat flares up again. And of course, it's now. when you file for certificates, I have to look back on these reports and figure out when people join. If that information isn't there, I can't do that. And I have to defer to the subordinate secretary's records. And when a secretary tells me they don't have those records, we have a problem. So I need as much information as possible. I apologize. In the section below, where it says brothers, sisters, boys, and girls, please start filling that out. National Grange Membership Department is asking for that information. It's important to them when they apply for grants, so they know what the demographics of the organization are. Excuse me. They can say that they have X number boys, girls, men or women, what have you. So please break that out. I'm going to take a 1 minute break. I'm going to stop the share.
Okay, Todd,
I'll be right back.
Yep, when you get back, I'll ask a question.
Hey Barbara, I put a little something in the chat for you.
Evidently did not pop up on my screen. Usually that does. Hang in there.
Oh, no worries.
Okay.
I just want to set up a time for the books.
Okay, so there was a question from Debbie.
Yes. And I just want, I mean, if the brother and sister, at some point we have to think about doing non-binary, if I'm using the word correctly.
That may be
Yeah.
true. That may be true. However, that would be a National Grange bylaws change. The number for men and women actually determines whether you're eligible to retain your charter. You're required to have a specified number of men and women on your rolls to maintain your charter. That's primarily why we ask for that information. That's why National requires that information. So if it were to be further defined, that would have to be by resolution. So I would encourage you to write a resolution if you'd like to see a change in that regard, asking them to further define that. So if we're going to be,
I get it.
yeah.
Just out of curiosity, what is that number?
Jody, do you remember?
It must be, of the total of 13, it has to be at least 6 of one and 7 of the other. You need 13 to maintain your charter.
Okay, thank you.
You have to have enough women to fill the female offices, at least, and we don't, the founders did not want an entire women's organization or entire men's organization. They wanted a family organization, and the way to ensure that is to require numbers of both.
That specification of the number came about probably 10, 12, 14 years ago. There were some Granges being formed on the West Coast of all women or all men, and it's not a ladies group, it's not a man's group. It's a true fraternal organization. So.
Okay. Are there any other questions on the quarterly report? No? All right. So that goes through my entire notes of pre-recorded information. So I'll open it up to your questions. Everybody's good?
tea in Ireland? Zoe.
Colonel and Clue mustard.
Colonel Mustard. Teresa.
Colonel
Clinic,
Mustard.
Minnesota.
Oh, there we go.
The Mayo Clinic and BJ.
Sounds like Pat is watching one of them game shows.
100.
Oh, there, Joanne.
You know, it must be me. Maybe my microphone is finally working.
Oh, there you go.
Dear BJ.
I have a question,
Yes.
and just want your opinion. I could go either way with this and understand it. What about like the quarterly report, being able to fill that out electronically and sending it?
I'm not particularly in favor of filing it electronically. We can make a form available to fill out online so you don't have to handwrite the form. But we require signatures on the form of both the secretary and the master. I think it's important that at least those two people review the form before it's submitted. And I prefer that the payment come with the report. I know some Granges file the report and the payment follows later. Sometimes it takes quite a bit longer than the report for the payment to arrive. I don't know. At this point,
There's
a fillable PDF up on the website already.
Right. Yeah. And that's fine. I just wanted to kind of find out how you felt about that, and your points are valid, and I understand it.
Todd, is there like a calendar or something online where you can go and see like dates due and all that stuff?
No, there isn't specifically a calendar. So, but there is something in the works. I had planned at the end of last year to put together a handbook for secretaries. And I bit off a little bit more than I could chew. If I'm going to do something like that, I want to make sure it's thorough.
Okay.
I want to make sure that all the bases are covered, that I'm not leaving things to interpretation. So it's not complete at this time. But when complete, it will have guidelines for secretaries. It may not have specific dates. I want it to be complete, but I don't want to make it outdated before it even comes out, because things do change.
Yeah, no. Mm-hmm.
So which dates were you most concerned about?
I just want to make sure, for like tax purposes or like, just like whenever things are due, I just want to make sure I have them, because I missed the postcard email, or the letter, because it was in, I just want to make sure I can see something visually sometimes.
You missed the notification for the
postcard
let me know what your
tax form, it was in the we didn't meet, so I left it. I didn't realize it was in the
it was in the envelope.
Right, it was in the envelope, so I didn't see them. So if there was a calendar I could see, then I would have been, oh well, let me call Todd and see, what. So that's all.
Well, we can probably do a better job publicizing the deadlines in the Granger.
Oh, okay.
I can't help it when you don't open the mail, though.
Right, I did. Well, I opened it and I didn't see it, and then so I just put it aside because I didn't see it in the envelope.
Yeah.
Opened it, so I put it aside and didn't think about it. And I was like, I'm not going to give these to anybody till we meet. So
yeah, well, I can't say I haven't done that. I get a lot of mail, and sometimes I put off opening some of the mail, and then it gets pushed aside, and then oh my goodness, I probably should have opened that mail sooner. So there will be a handbook coming out.
Oh, great.
When I became secretary, a lot of the things that I do now with you, with sending out notices and doing forms and special things, that wasn't something that my predecessors did. And it was all locked in their heads. And if they didn't impart that knowledge to me, I had to figure it out for myself. So it's like institutional knowledge is great until that person is not there any longer.
Todd, I'm not
Yes.
sure if this is for you or for Terry, but I am not able to get on the Grange website. It will not let me on. It says it doesn't, I forget what, and I talked to a couple of other people and they can't get on either.
It's because the State Grange website is not on a secure platform.
Yes, exactly.
It's on a regular
and it
platform.
will not.
Up until this point, there's nothing that needs to be secure on it, so we haven't wanted to pay for the ability to put it on a secure platform because we're not selling anything, we're not collecting any money or anything like that. But what's happened is in the last probably a year or so, Google particularly is doing things like that by tagging websites that are not on secure platforms. So at some point in the near future, we're going to have to bite the bullet and pay to have it on a secure platform. We just have not done that yet because it costs so much money a year to do it.
Right, something to do with the certificate.
Yeah, it's the security certificate. If you get that message, you can go in and tell it to allow, and it will allow it so you can go in and proceed from there. And it didn't hold it?
Nope.
Normally it does. But within the near future, we're going to have to move it to a secure platform because of things like that. We just don't really have a choice anymore. But we've been waiting as long as we can. So
okay, thanks, Terry.
This is probably a brief discussion I should have offline, but Terry, if you could put together a proposal for me so we can discuss it at the board level to decide what to do with that. I'm concerned that the general public can't get information about the state Grange or our Granges because of that. So,
and it's budget season.
What's that, Jody?
And it's budget season.
Yeah, I'll get it.
Yes, all of these changes are cash grabs by Microsoft and Google, and if you have Optimum as a provider, they don't like organizations that maintain their own email servers, so they'll block those servers because they're not part of their system. There's a lot of bad stuff going around with the internet, territorial stuff going on, which is just making it more difficult to communicate. So,
hi, this is Itala Duke from the Canon Grange. If you guys are looking to have your independent website and a website person to manage that, we have a pretty good one at a Canon Grange. She's been doing a great work for us. She maintains our website, our independent emails. She's a great lady and she works with nonprofits. So I'm happy to share her.
We're in the process of looking to redo our website. So if you can get me her information, my email is information@ctstategrange.org. I'm Terry. And we're in the process of trying to redo the website because it's way outdated and it just needs to be redone. And what we're going to end up doing is basically scrapping what's there and starting over. And then saving historical. So there'll end up being two websites eventually. One will be new information, and all the old information will be saved in like a historical receptacle in a sense. So
yep, that's exactly what we did.
So that way we're not, we don't want to lose all the history. We've got 20 plus years of history on that website, and we don't want to lose all of that. But we need to do something as websites are changing, and they're changing drastically very quickly. We need to redo it. I've talked to a couple of different people from some Granges who have offered to help with this. So if you can get me her information, I'll contact her and we'll go from there.
Yes.
Thank you.
Todd, all the reports from the community Granges are due by the 5th of the month, right?
By the 15th.
The 15th. Oh.
Yeah.
I thought the 5th. We had a Pomona.
No, the Connecticut Granger reports are due the 5th.
Yes.
I accept them later than that.
Today. We have 12 Granges in our Pomona. I only get a quarterly report from 4 Granges.
what the T stands for.
What's my
Okay.
solution?
Well, I think Judy has the same problem, that you don't get 100% reporting from all the Granges within the Pomonas. So your only choice is to report what you know.
I mean,
So,
that's
like
25%.
That's exactly, I have the same problem, but I'm working on it.
Yeah. Like I said about my report to national, when Granges don't report to me, I have to use what I already know, and it's historical data. So in the previous quarter, if they reported 100 members, then I have to pay based on 100 members, because that's my best information. It's not as much of a problem for the Pomonas for me, because I don't have to report information to national about Pomonas. They don't collect that data. We do at the state range, but national doesn't need that info. They do need the subordinate info.
Don't broadcast that, because I told them today I needed that for information.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
There's then two issues when a Grange doesn't send their report in on time. Todd issues his report based on historic data. Then he gets the report, and that Grange had lost a couple of members by death, a couple by suspension, a couple by demit, and now the state Grange overpaid our dues. We can't get that dues money back, first of all. And secondly, if he waits, then we end up filing late, and we pay 1% per month for if we're late on our dues. And the Connecticut State Grange has never been late on paying their dues. Well, I don't believe we were under Phil Berquist, and we have not under me being treasurer. But
that 1%, the 1% fine is based on the total amount due.
Right.
So we pay upwards of $7,000 in dues per quarter to National Grange. So we pay a 1% fine on that $7,000 if we're late with our report. I'm not late with my reports.
Oh.
We're not going to do that.
We do regularly overpay the dues due to lack of quarterly reports.
The other problem that occurs when reports aren't made is that, and it's happened a couple times, where Granges have taken a substantial number of new members in a quarter where they haven't reported. And well, one Grange in particular, they were several quarters behind, and were very upset with me when they didn't receive membership recognition because I didn't have reporting, or the reporting came late, or it came after the tallies were made for the year. You know, reporting on time is so incredibly important.
And I would say if the Grange secretaries find that the report is so cumbersome, think about how we can do this differently on a national level. We have so many classifications of members that you have to be a technical engineer with an accounting degree, and an abacus, a calculator, and a futuristic numerator to be able to figure out the dues at times with all of the different classifications.
Yeah.
Those are all set by national through resolution. So,
well, we've done a little bit to ourselves too. We have student membership, and that's not a thing at national. That's regularly misconstrued. Either student age children fall under a family membership, or it's student. But if they're student, they're either emancipated or they're the only one in their household that's a member of a Grange. It can't be both. And quite often that gets mixed up, and it's a mess.
What we need is a procedure manual for filling out that form, with a written procedure for it.
And that's exactly what I'm trying to do.
Yeah,
it's not easy. It's not easy.
No, it isn't.
Because once I put it in writing, and if I make a mistake, someone's going to hold me to that mistake. I guarantee it.
Send it out and we'll edit it.
How many Granges have student members?
Not many.
Debbie and I are counting the same people.
We probably have 5 or 6 Granges that report student members.
If the age was lower, I would have a bunch. But because the age is so high, I don't. There's a lot of families, young families at my Grange, and we just can't report them.
Well,
it's a sad loss because those families were very interested. And when they learn of the definition of a family membership, they were very disappointed. So I ended up losing
no,
and having individuals.
You shouldn't have to do that. They would be a family membership. Depending on the age of the children, they can be considered under family membership. But the parents, if they don't qualify for family membership, they can come in as +1 members.
These are children under the age of 8.
Right.
Mostly under the age of 5.
Right.
If your Grange does not have a junior Grange, junior Grange age children can come into your Grange as +1 members. So they can be members of your Grange, part of the junior Grange program in the state, without having a junior Grange within your own subordinate Grange. So there is a way for them to become members.
But wouldn't it be much simpler if we just welcome all the families and have a family membership for anybody under the age of 18?
No, because we clearly define who's eligible for subordinate membership, and that's 14 and above. Until that changes, that can be done by resolution. If you want to change that, by all means, put forward a resolution. But I think there might be some reluctance to do that because it would erode the base of the junior Grange. The compromise was adding +1 membership. So Granges that couldn't get enough kids together to qualify for chartering a junior Grange, they could still have them be part of the Grange. They could participate in the community Grange without that junior Grange charter within your Grange. So those kids, if they're 6 years old, they'd qualify for +1. They would pay junior Grange dues, which is a minimum of $1 per member, and they can be part of the Grange.
Do you have information on this that you can email it to me? Like
the state master does.
Yeah, Rob can provide that information for you.
Where would they be reported on the form?
Yeah.
They are reported in that section I talked about earlier, where we break out the
family plan.
Let me show you the form again.
No, no, they don't qualify for the family plan.
No.
Okay.
They fall under the boys and girls section.
Family plan members are 14 years and older.
Okay.
So, and it's primarily designed to give a break to young families that they might have 3 kids, 2-3 kids, and they're paying for their own memberships. That's a lot of money if you're paying $30, $40, $50 per individual membership. Right. So it gives them a little bit of a cost break. But let me put the form up again.
Okay.
So in the section, you can't see my cursor, but
we can.
Yes.
You can see my cursor. So in right here, affiliated junior members.
Oh, okay.
So then where you see the 3 and the 2, well, this particular Grange has 5 members who are +1. So that means they're 13 or younger. And they qualify to be junior Grange members, but they're not in a Grange that has a junior Grange.
Where would you put the fee for those individual children?
Right. Where would we put the fee?
We don't collect dues at the state level from junior Granges or from +1 members. So that money stays within your Grange.
No.
That whole dollar.
Yeah, that whole dollar.
Okay.
You can set that number higher. If you want to charge $5 per member, you can do whatever you want, but the minimum is $1 per member.
Good information.
Thank you.
And so if you were to do that, and if you have a good number of families that want to join your Grange, that's a great way to start a junior Grange by encouraging those families to build up in number so you can get to that 13 where you can open up a junior Grange.
But your plus ones do not count towards your quorum at a meeting, no, right, Worthy Master?
Correct.
Nor do they count towards your 13 members to maintain your charter. Correct?
Because they don't fall under the age requirement as subordinate Grange members that are required, the 6 and the 7, making the 13 subordinate members. That's kind of, I guess, why they call them plus one. They're kind of like a plus addition to the Grange, but not a subordinate member as required under your charter.
But you're encouraged to, if somebody's out, give them a job. Let them be assistant steward for the night. Let them sit with the treasurer or work on a committee or do all those things that Grange members do to get their feet wet and really get them to love the Grange as much as we all do. The talent.
Another question about membership. What would you do with the family with an adult disabled child or an adult disabled sibling? Let's just say I have an adult disabled sibling that under the tax laws, I am the responsible for that and I pay and that person is my dependent. How would I recognize that person as a member of the Grange if I am a member of the Grange as a family?
Regardless of age, they are allowed by the digest to be part of a family membership plan.
And again, the state president can help you find that in the digest. Because the state president is the only member of the Connecticut State Grange that can interpret the digest for you. Your subordinate master and the state master are the only two.
Natalia, that's what we do too. I'm a family member because we have a 23-year-old autistic. As long as he is a dependent on our taxes, we will always be a family member because he will always be our dependent. It doesn't matter. So, but
if you have a 32-year-old who just lives in your basement, then no, that doesn't.
Where in the form would that where in the form would that person be listed? The disabled person, not the one living.
It's a family membership listing. That's all.
It's just a family membership listing. Yeah. Okay.
That brings another point. Let me put that form back up. Let me put the form back up for a second.
They have to be a member of the Grange, not just because you have them living in your house. They have to be a member of the Grange.
Right.
Well, if I'm a family member, wouldn't that person then be, this is my question, right? Where in the form of it? Is it part of my family membership?
This is now the territory of the state master.
Yeah. Has that person been initiated into Grange membership?
Well, so here's the fine line. This person is a disabled, I have a member who has a disabled sister.
Did that sister
is kept in the house. She's very disabled. This member is very upset that she's not recognized as a family. How can I make this person recognized as a family membership?
Initiate the member as a member. If the member is not initiated, she is not a member, even though she's part of the family. If she's a family member, she's got to be an initiated member of the Grange, which means you have to get her to your Grange Hall and do an initiation welcoming ceremony on that person.
Rob,
and show her as a new member.
Rob, you could go to her house and do it too.
I mean,
she wouldn't have to come out of the house, right? You could take 7 people to the house and have a meeting there.
That's a good question. I don't know about the movability of Grange meetings. I mean, I know Granges have met in houses when Grange halls, but that was always something that was kind of done under the carpet. I don't know that that's technically allowable.
Can you do Zoom to have her initiated?
Zoom, I mean, what, I hate to get personal, but what is the mental capacity of said person?
It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter,
Well,
really.
what I'm trying to get at
It's
is what
somebody's
you're
health
going to
right.
purport on her being. Does she understand the meaning of what you are doing? I mean, it does matter in a sense. Otherwise, we could be initiating any and everybody under the planet. Uh, so, I mean, does this person have the mental capacity to realize what is being conferred upon her?
I just think she's retained by equipment.
So
Well, you haven't answered my question, though. Does she
I
understand
I
what
said
will be
I
done
said
to
yes,
her?
but she is retained by equipment. She's
She's bedridden.
yes.
Yeah, she's
Oh, well,
bedridden.
you just come out and say that. I mean, I don't know who this person is or what the nature of the disability is, and I don't know why the person can't be brought to the Grange Hall if you don't tell me.
Worthy master, correct me if I'm wrong here, but if they're unable to leave the house, I think under those circumstances, it would be permissible to have them Zoom into a Grange meeting.
I don't see why not.
So guys, I as a past day master, I got to say time out, right? We're walking a very fine line of making decisions on things that should, I mean, we can't be sitting here. We don't have anything on the books that says that you can do initiations online. Yes, it's on the national. The national has authorized meetings online. National has not authorized welcoming ceremonies or anything like that. I think we're walking a fine line here. And I mean, the question was, and I'm not certain it was able to be answered because I'm not certain I could answer it either. Not that I'm saying, hearing the discussion, I'm not certain I could answer it without really digesting the digest. But I think we're walking a fine line of a really.
I think what I was trying to get at is this person just feeling left out because she's left out of the doings? Or is this a person that is going to come in, know what is being conferred upon her, him, or whatever, and be a, for lack of a better word, a meaningful addition to the group with some ability to contribute, or is it just a number on paper?
It's none of the above. This is the very active member of the Grange who doesn't feel that the Grange recognize her family status.
I would recommend, if I may, Sister Duke and worthy president, that you find the clauses of the digest, you send them to Sister Duke, because the digest is very clear what constitutes a family in recognition of the family due structure. And I think that will help.
Okay.
Cannon Grange and Sister Duke. We're not looking at it.
No.
She has not had the opportunity to see it. I think that's the best way to move away from this, worthy secretary, and I apologize for jumping in. And
no, don't apologize.
Thank you.
But it is a good lesson that, if you're having trouble within your Grange, something's not conforming properly, you're not able to understand the rules, let the state master know, or let me know, and I'll let the state master know that there's a question that we might be able to resolve for you, especially when it involves not being able to take in members or perceived rule that doesn't exist. The digest is out there for everyone, but not everybody knows the total content of the digest. And it's a lot to consume, and it's constantly changing. So let us know when you have a problem.
And I want to reiterate that every Grange was issued a copy of the digest. They were all mailed to the secretaries, so every Grange should have one. Now, I don't know, Itala and your Grange, who has it or where it was put, but somebody there will have a copy.
They are downloadable from the national website.
That also.
They take a lot of toner and ink to print out at home. If you'd like to purchase a copy, let me know. I'd be happy to provide you with one.
And you can view it online as well. You don't have to print it out. You can.
But you don't. But I would strongly encourage the secretaries to have a copy in their bag at every meeting, because you never know when an issue that might arise, that you can provide that to your master or to whoever in the Grange, so they can look up quickly whatever the clause is, and maybe resolve a problem immediately and not have to wait until you're able to look it up online. So I wanted to go back to the quarterly report for a moment. In the area of family plans, there's a lot of problem with reporting family plans correctly. Up in section A, we ask for the total number of family plan members. It's not asking how many family plans are in your Grange. What that's asking for is if you have 4 families with 4 members each, that number is 16. In this case, it is 2 families with 4 members each. So the number to report is 8. Down below, on letter C, it says the number of family plans. And in this case, it's 2 multiplied by the $8.25 per family, and you would pay $16.50 on those 2 family plans. So you have to report the total number of family plan members and the total number of families on the same form. It kind of throws things out of whack when those are flipped around or only one's reported, and then I have to figure out how many families there are. It throws off the totals. So if we can pay attention to that, that would be wonderful.
I have a question about that.
Sure.
We have a set dues amount, and we charge every member that dues amount. But with families, they're kind of getting cheated because we don't pay that much for them. They're paying the full amount, but when we're paying you, we're paying a lesser amount.
Who's getting cheated? I'm sorry, I'm not understanding.
The families. Like if we have a member with 3, a mother and 2 children, we charge her a full membership for each one of them. But when we pay you, we're paying far less than that.
You're not charging a family membership. You're charging actually individual membership for them.
Right.
Well, how are they under the age of 22, the children?
Yes.
Then you can charge them the student.
We can charge them a lesser amount.
You can.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like I said before, it was designed to give essentially parents a price break, so they're not paid full individual membership on an entire family. That can be a deciding factor on whether they continue in membership or not, if they can't afford to pay full.
Yes.
Especially on large families.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. We're doing it, but we need to do it with the dues that we're charging them.
I've never heard that the members lose money on the family membership before. It's always been the Grange that loses money on it. But yeah. Any other questions? All right.
The Grange actually makes money on the family dues structure.
Yeah.
Because if you're charging, so hypothetically, right, the dues to the state Grange to cover national and state Grange's dues is $30 a year, $7.50 per quarter per member. Okay. If you're charging that, so say you're charging $40 for a family of 3, so you're collecting $120, but you're paying $8.25 per quarter, or a total of $34. More money where you're paying $8.25 a quarter for one family unit, where under an individual basis, you'd be paying $7.50 for each of the 3.
That's correct, but the member is still paying the full amount.
The member is, but the Grange is benefiting in that case.
Right.
Because the Grange is retaining the difference between the family membership and the individual membership.
Yeah, just feels like the family is getting cheated because they're not getting the benefit of that.
in the Connecticut in Econ Grange, our dues are $40 a year for a membership, and it's $25 for the students.
Okay,
All
that's
right.
what I'm getting at.
Now the state master can clarify this for you upon request, because I'm sure he doesn't have the digest memorized on every page. The digest specifies the exact amount, the exact minimum amount that each member must pay annually in dues. All right, so you can't charge less than that minimum amount.
Okay.
Now,
very helpful.
Now, that being said, we have too many damn due structures in this organization. You need to have an engineering degree. I feel sorry for you folks that are secretaries. Look, Noel had a full head of hair before he became secretary.
Yeah, it's quite
Not true.
There's never a line of candidates waiting to take your job. That is for sure.
I lost my hair when I became a subordinate master.
All right. On that note, I do have an additional note. I'd like to remind secretaries to keep accurate records, make sure that your minutes are printed and put in some kind of book, whether it be a three-ring binder or some other permanent record. I know we're in an age of electronic data, but if your hard drive dies, like Knowles recently did, you run the risk of losing a lot of data. And that, in a few cases, it's been the Grange records. We're not here forever. I'm not here forever. And if you're the only one knows where that information is, that's a problem. Especially when, and we've had more instances that I'd like to see where there have been legal issues where we have to go back and look at motions that have been made and who the officers were at the time that actions were taken. And if those records aren't available, then we're on weak legal standing. So it's important that secretaries keep accurate records, make sure those records are safe and available to your successors. Okay? I know you all have that down. You're all doing that anyway, right? So.
Right.
If there are no other questions, I don't hear any. I'll thank you again for coming this evening. I hope to have those manuals out as soon as I possibly can, but I make no promises. I'll do the best I can. It has to fit in around everything else going on. And that's it. So thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
You too.
Enjoy your night, Terry.